Good evening. My name is Dean Landbeer, and it's my very real honor and privilege on behalf of the whole North Shore Country Day School community to welcome you to the annual Harold Hines lecture. This is now the 5th year of this very wonderful program, which brings extraordinary people to an evening such as this, and then the next day followed, as is the case tomorrow, with our students. This is all made possible through the loyalty and generosity of Mary Pick Hines and many alumni, parents, and friends of North Shore Country Day, who in loving memory and honor of Harold Hines, who was a trustee of this school and parent, made this whole yearly series possible. It's a bit appropriate, I believe, that tonight we have, in a sense, come full circle, because the inaugural Harold Hines lecture was delivered 4 years ago by A. Bartlett Giamatti, then president of Yale University. And of course, tonight our guest was one of his students. And that makes it kind of special, I believe. We here at North Shore are honored this year because a year ago, when the committee was trying to decide who to invite for this year's series, the school book club had read a very interesting book that suggested that we get tonight's guest. Little knowing that at that time, between then and now, we would be privileged to have in our student body an exchange student from Shanghai, the People's Republic of China. And I'd like to recognize Lan Tang. All of the young people of China are as this young woman. I hope we can bring them by the boatloads. To introduce our guest, it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Diamond, who is head of our upper school and chairman of the Harold Hines Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Landbeer. Faculty, students, parents, guests of the school, I too would like to welcome all of you to the 89-90 Harold Hines lecture. As Mr. Landbeer just mentioned, this arose out of the faculty book club. We read the book, we loved it, numerous others did as well, and we said to ourselves, let's see if we can get him. Sure enough, he's here. Mr. Salzman is a native of Ridgefield, Connecticut. He attended Yale College and graduated from Yale in 1982. From there, he went on to teach English at the Hunan Medical College in China for 2 years. He returned to the United States in 1984 and immediately wrote and published his book, Iron and Silk. The book met with wide acclaim across the nation. It was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. He was one of the 5 authors nominated that year for the Literary Lions Award. He also received the prestigious Christopher Award. And the book continues to be, having gone through numerous printing, continues to be found in your bookstores across the nation. Since that time, he has written the screenplay and starred in the movie Iron and Silk, based on the book, which just opened at the United States Film Festival and hopefully will be seen in a theater here in the near future. He also just finished a novel, and he is currently working on a book of nonfiction, and that is currently in the hands of his editors at Random House. Before he comes out, I would also like to mention that following his talk and question and answer, there will be a shortened section for him in the art gallery just below. If you come out, you go to your left and going down into the art gallery for that reception. I would like you all to welcome Mr. Mark Salzman.
I'm not appreciate it for what it really is, not for your idea of spectacular feats of, I call feats of idiocy, like, breaking things at your face and all that. I mean, why break bricks? You can build buildings with them. Why bust them? Well, anyway, to introduce to you what martial arts is really about is kind of hard. So I want to go about it sort of roundabout. Last week, I saw, I think, the best movie I've ever seen in my life. It's called For All Mankind. Well, I'm sure it'll come around. What it is it's a documentary with all footage from the Apollo moonshots. So it's just all real footage of the astronauts going to the moon. And, when the astronauts first went to the moon, I guess I was 9 or 10, and so I watched it on TV, of course, but it was all very unreal to me. And now it's 20 years later, we take it for granted. Well, now you see it on film, you see what it really looks like. It's just, pow! And, I was just sitting there, I went 3 nights in a row, paid all 3 nights. It's a first for me. Usually I try and sneak in, back. But anyway, the amazing thing about this film is that you expect these astronauts, they're Top Gun, jet pilots. And so you figure they're going to be kind of like robots, in their little suits and their little capsule. But they're not. See, once they get out into space and they get on the moon, they become like little boys. No joke, it's hilarious. They're like, I like to hop. And they can never concentrate on their work because they're like, tossing gloves in the air and going, woo! And they're actually singing. They're going like, I was walking on the moon one day. It's so hilarious. Well, anyway, the reason that this relates to martial arts is that when I was watching, I was thinking, isn't it a shame, though, that for most of us, it takes a trip to the moon before you get a sense of wonder and exhilaration out of the simplest things like walking. For them, walking in lunar gravity just was knocking them flat. They were just ecstatic. And in truth, there's nothing more amazing about lunar gravity than Earth gravity. It's just that that's unfamiliar. It seems new, and we take great pleasure out of it. And I think we all yearn for adventure, and so that's why most of us need expensive toys and blah blah. Well, what martial arts is all about, really, is that by forcing you to perfect technique over and over and over endlessly until you think there's no way you can do anything more with it, but then you have to keep throwing yourself back into it and putting all of your mind and concentration into it, what happens is it wears out your cramped ideas of what those motions are, so that after about, 10 years or so, it starts to become amazing. The simplest things, the ordinary things become extraordinary. And that is the power and beauty of martial arts, I think. Now, any art does that for you. See, I disagree with people that say, well, only martial arts can do this for you. That's so silly. Any real great artist, when Yasha Heifetz is playing there, I just gotta believe that guy is in the same, just, woohoo, there's no room for thinking, gotta clean the kitty litter tomorrow. But what we can learn from the Chinese approach to training is very different than the Western approach. I'll talk about that in a minute. Why don't I do this routine, and then we'll talk more about it. Anyway, what I'll do is this is a school of martial arts called Tai Chi Chuan. You've probably all seen people doing it, moving kind of slow motion. This particular school that I do has brief moments of power. It's not quite completely fluid, and that appeals to me because I'm young and all. And the thing to watch for here is watch for the unbroken line. See, what should happen is from the moment it starts till the moment it ends, about 3 or 4 minutes later, there should be an unbroken line. It's like, imagine if I was playing a violin. There should be music that comes out nonstop. There should be no breaks. It shouldn't look like this. Kind of like you hit it well. You want it should look as if, okay, now when you're doing it, you're not only feeling your hands, the motion of your hip, your whole body, but you're feeling the ground of your feet. You're seeing the whole room around you, but you're not focusing on any one thing. You've got to just sort of be aware of it all at the same time. And you should feel like the whole room is going up through your feet and pow, out through your hands. So look for that kind of, they say, it's like a crazed tiger crashing down a mountain. It should look like, you've seen those National Geographic specials when those tigers see like the gazelle or whatever, and then pow, when they go after it, there's no gotta take a lunch break. Well, no. So that's what you want to look for, that kind of taking the brush and just, I don't know, listening to Walkman. I figured it was so relaxing, but you talk to the calligrapher. I remember this one calligraphy teacher I had. He couldn't believe that I thought it was relaxing. He goes, relaxing? Calligraphy is difficult because it takes everything. And what they mean is, when those guys sit down, they grind that ink. And when they're grinding it, they look worried. It's like, and they stick the brush in it. When finally it's loaded with ink, they stand there. And when they finally put the thing down on the paper and start going, they just break out in sweat. And I was asking, I'd always ask, well, what's going on there? And they'd say, don't you understand? You have to know with your whole body that the brush, that the point of the brush, it's not just touching the paper. It's got to go through the paper. It's got to go 2 inches under the table. Not really, but your will has to be there. Anyway, martial arts. I get such a kick out of it. You might have noticed in that little flyer kind of thing, talks about when I left China, I had this bag full of whips and spears and chains and all that stuff. See, when I was growing up, my interest, of course, was in all the flashy stuff, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle business. And that's what I wanted, I wanted to go throwing darts. I worked for years and years and years, and then in China, I lived there, studied with these great teachers. Then I went back to China again and again, and finally, after 16 years, I finally got to a point where I could do that stuff. And then I've been having trouble with my lower back for a couple of years, So I went to this doctor. I said, what's the deal? He goes, your spine has 2 crushed vertebrae in there, or those discs in there. He goes, if you do this and you don't watch out, in a year you're not going to be able to walk. Oh, I can't tell you. I just thought my whole life was, I wanted to be hero of the beach. And that was because when I grew up, I was always the little kid. I was the weak one, the shy one, the one that was always getting sand kicked in the face. And all the girls in my high school said, "You're just like a little brother to me." You know what that's like. So I thought that martial arts would make me, brave and fearless and strong and taller. Well, that didn't work. I used to hang upside down from my bed, trying to. So I thought, well, what a terrible thing. No, I can't do it. I was grumpy for a whole year. But then I remembered, I studied this very slow stuff. I thought, well, I've got to do something. So I went back to this, and now for the past year and a half, I've been doing nothing but this. And I am happier doing this than I ever was doing all that flashy stuff. It's great. That stuff Chinese martial arts, and I'd look at it and I'd try to imitate the postures, and it was pretty ridiculous. And finally, my parents let me join this kung fu school, and it wasn't what I had in mind. See, I imagined it would be monks with shaved heads and wisdom and everything. Instead, it was this guy with this handlebar mustache, with like tattoos all over his body, saying, "Kung fu is the art of peace." Which means if you're in a bar and someone makes fun of your girlfriend, well, you grab his ears, break his nose, break his neck, like this, but you do it with peace of mind. And there I am, I'm 13, and he says, "Mark, your turn." So I got to spar with some 30-year-old welder that's 6'4". Like this, and that guy just goes, away I go, and it was really discouraging. But I still wanted to, I wanted to keep up with it, so I decided, I've got to learn the language. So I decided this is what I'm going to do. I've got to find a native speaker of Chinese. So there's this restaurant in town, the Rickshaw Inn. And I went in and I said, "Listen, can I wash dishes for you? And in return, I'll listen to you talk." "Sure." So that's sort of, I got interested in that. And then again, I figured, well, maybe the reason I'm not getting anywhere with this martial arts business is that what I need to do is I need to learn Chinese philosophy, Chinese art, Chinese history, all this stuff. Now, of course, my high school didn't offer any of that kind of stuff. Frankly, I was bored out of my mind in high school because, well, for one thing, all my classmates at that time, this is like 73, 74, they were all just kind of like, talking back and, can't wait to go out and smoke some cigarettes and, the teacher's so stupid. And I'm embarrassed, meanwhile, because I'm thinking whenever they talk back, it's my fault. You know how it is, like teachers like this, someone, makes one of those sounds, and they always look at you, Mark Salzman, I didn't do it. So I was bored in high school, so I wanted to do everything outside, see, so I was working at this Chinese restaurant, so I got all these books on Chinese philosophy, and how I'd read them is, I was in this youth symphony. My mother's a musician, she always wanted to be a musician, she wanted me to be too, so I played the cello. So I was in this symphony, and I didn't really like that much either, so what I used to do is I used to put these books between my legs, see, so the conductor couldn't see them. So then I decided I got to learn Chinese painting. So I get out these books, and I went to the art teacher of our high school. I said, "Listen, will you let me come to art class, but not do all the throwing the tempera at the walls and stuff, and let me do my Chinese stuff?" "Sure, fine." But then I decided, I need a teacher. So I went to the other Chinese restaurant in town, the House of China, and I walked in, and this is what I'm talking about, the power of accents. I walked in there, and they're all the waiters sitting around having, rice at 4 in the afternoon. I said, "Excuse me, is anyone here a Chinese painter?" And one of them stands up and says, "Yes, I'm a Chinese painter." And he was. He graduated from the University of Hong Kong in the fine arts department, but his parents were living in America, and he wanted to raise money to, to help him retire. So here he was, this waiter in this restaurant. He was terrific. So he would ride his bicycle twice a week to the house and help me with my little, brush paint. So that was a lot of fun. Well, then it gets to be junior year of high school. I shouldn't be telling you this, teachers will kill me, but I really wanted to be doing my own thing, and the high school was just, no teacher. All I wanted was a teacher who was excited. See, that would have been fine. But my teachers really weren't. They were bored with their jobs, so I was bored with them. So as soon as I turned 16, I quit. Oh, my parents were horrified, and they only never do that. It's today it's quitting, tomorrow it's the drug house, and they can just see me. I said, no, it's okay because I'm going to still play the cello. They said, well, that's good. But then I lost interest in classical music, so I started playing jazz. Well, that was that. Can you imagine? Well, I felt so guilty that I said to my parents, look, why don't I apply to colleges? Because I've heard that some colleges accept students without high school diplomas, and, and that made them feel better. So I went to my guidance counselor. I said, look, do you have any applications? She said, well, it's the wrong time of year, but we have this one from Yale, so you can fill that out. I said, all right. So I filled it in, and then my essay, I talked about music. I talked about I was interested in Chinese. Well, they had this Chinese department there, and they're hungry for students. So they said, you're in. So I came up, my mother was teaching piano, right? My father's upstairs, waiting for this piano student to go. My mother's a piano teacher, right? So every day coming home from school, from 2 till 6, I had to sit in the basement and listen to blinka blinka plunk plunk, blinka blinka plunk. And my poor dad, sitting up in the bed like this. Anyway, I came in, my mother's their teacher. I said, Mama, I got accepted to sometimes the applications get stapled by accident. So I called the admissions office. I said, "Are you sure?" "Yes, yes." He said. So then I said to my parents, "Look, it's for real." And they said, "Well, Mark, we don't have any money to put you in college." My parents are pretty much like me. You just do what you do and don't think of it too much. Well, so what I did was I told Yale, I said, "Well, look, I'll take a year off, see, and work." And so what I did was I drove this seed truck where I would deliver seed to horse farms out in Connecticut. See, and at night I was playing my jazz, and it was wonderful. Then eventually I settled into a job working as a clerk in a mail room of a law firm, see. That was really fun because what I got to do is every day I'd go around with the mail and give it not to the lawyers, but to their secretaries. The secretary's always in a good mood. The lawyer's always in a bad mood, see. So that was always fun. I'd chatter with them. Then the lawyer would come out of the office and we'd... Anyway, that year was great. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. If anybody's really like thinking, "Yeah, I want to go to college someday, but gosh, I just feel like I've been in this rut all my life." I took this year off. It was wonderful because it was a little bit of a break from the routine of classes in school, so it seemed good. But by the end of the year, I did get frankly tired of doing, driving the seed truck. So when I went to college, I was ecstatic. And the funny thing is that my roommates had all been to a really fancy prep school, and those guys, the first piece of furniture they moved in was this black leather bar filled with gin. So they put this thing in, and there they are with like swizzle sticks. I'd never seen anything like this before. Well, and they went to Hotchkiss. I don't know if you ever been to school. Well, back at Kiss. So, here's the hilarious thing about it is, here I was, this bumpkin from this tiny town, and really my education was not that good, so I was frankly terrified that I would flunk out. I would drop out instantly. But here are these brilliant guys with just star-studded educations, and they were bored. So all they did was like drink and party. And these guys, to tell you what they're like, they each had a stereo. Well, they roomed together in one room, and I had a single. Well, they both set their stereos up in their rooms, pointing at each other. And we had no stereo in the living room, Well, anyway, so that was that. Well, I loved college. I had a great time, and I got to finally pursue my interest, which was in classical Chinese. I don't know if you, I don't see it mentioned on this timeline here, but Chinese, most of Chinese literature is written in a classical language, kind of like Latin is to modern English. So all those old books, see, I was always interested in Chinese philosophy because it seemed so different than what I was used to, and I just, I really wanted to learn about it. So I decided I wanted to learn it in the original language because when I read it in translation, I loved it. So I spent, my whole 4 years in college. Meanwhile, my junior year, I started to get a little bit in a rut, so I took another year off. That's another story. That was great, too. Anyway, my poor parents, their hair is all white now. Anyhow, so I spent all these years learning this difficult ancient language. And it's a beautiful language. It's great. But my one mistake is that when I was growing up, I never really read serious literature in English. I never read any serious literature. I was too restless, and I was more into the Flintstones. I don't know if anybody so when I finally was able to read these books, I realized that I was enjoying them pretty much the same as when I read them in translation, only I needed a dictionary. So that was a big blow to me, after all these years of learning this language. And I thought, what a terrible thing. And so I lost interest in Chinese completely, and I really felt stupid. I was really angry at myself. I felt I'd been kidding myself all these years learning Chinese. I thought, I'm so gullible. Here I am, typical, middle-class, suburb white American kid, thinks that another culture is better than his own. So I spent all these years learning about it, and then I discovered that actually, Chinese culture is great, but I just realized, it's not superior. It's not going to make me Superman. I wanted to be a sage. See, I wanted to be deep, because I never really was. And I thought Chinese philosophy would make me have profound thoughts. Well, it didn't really work out, so I was angry at myself. So I decided, no more Chinese, nothing. But then, it was coming graduation time. Now, meanwhile, all my, roommates, they're getting jobs at investment banks, see? They're all in jail now, but... But I was really jealous because I call it life in the goldfish bowl. I mean, really, you know, there we were, sat in the campus, these 4 Americans, and people would just walk by and stare. And you became really what you were. I mean, you were a representative of the country, which is kind of a weird feeling, not to just be yourself. To a whole bunch of people who've never seen an American, you represent an entire country, so your behavior, you know, stands for, so at first it was really tense, but then after a while you realize, well, so what? There's nothing I can do about that, so you just be yourself. Sometimes that has bad consequences. This one doctor from America came to visit, gave a speech at our medical college, and at the end of his speech, it was on sports medicine. So, this Chinese student raised their hand, and this was something that I'd heard again and again. The Chinese newspapers used to say that in America, American Olympic athletes who don't get the gold medal are severely punished because they disgrace their country. So the student asked, what happens to American athletes who don't win the gold medal? And the man, real dry sense of humor, says, we have to shoot them. And he left it there. And then he went to the next question about gallbladder infections. Nobody said anything, but then 2 weeks later, some of my dear students came to my office hours, really kind of red in the face, and they said, Teacher Mark, we ask you to please stop studying Chinese martial arts, because we're afraid if it becomes an Olympic sport, you will be called upon to perform, and you cannot beat the Chinese, and we are afraid you will be punished. So then you say to them, no, it's not true, oh, it's just a joke. And they say, he's so patriotic. But this experience, it was really wonderful for me because it made me appreciate Chinese culture all over again. And instead of hoping that it was superior to my own, or hoping that it would change me or making me something that I wasn't, instead now, finally, I was a grown-up, I was an American boy, I knew it, I knew I would never be deep, and I knew I'd never be Bruce Lee. So what am I going to do? Sit in my room and read English papers all day? No, I went out and I found these martial arts teachers. They were wonderful. You know, I'd heard that they were conservative. They wouldn't teach white people because they had this impression in China that Americans are kind of lazy, self-indulgent, and spoiled. Now, we know that's true, but don't tell me that. But the opposite was true. They felt that since I'd spent all these years learning the language, and all these years in the backyard, standing in these postures, they were very proud because they said, you look, you can't. They would say, if they practice like this, it gives us face because it shows that people who come from a country where they fly to work in rockets would still devote themselves to Chinese culture and prove that Chinese culture is #1. And so, you know, they were so generous to me. They would do everything they could to help. And so I had a terrific time. And so now it's funny. I finally got to the point where I know I'm American. I'll never be Chinese. I don't sit in meditation every day. I don't shave my head. I'm not Chinese at all. But Chinese culture has given me such pleasure because it's not exotic to me anymore. It's not unfamiliar. It's very familiar. It's kind of like a second home in a way. And now that it's not unfamiliar, not exotic, I can just appreciate it for what it is. And oh boy, so anybody that's thinking of studying another culture, go right ahead. Very good idea. So that's my pep talk about that sort of thing. Then I guess the last thing I wanted to tell you about was making a movie. You know, after the book came out, I got these offers from Hollywood studios. They wanted to buy the rights to the film and make their own version of it. Now, I was kind of hesitant to do that because I was afraid they would turn it into, you know, like Karate Kid or, you know, and they're all the same, these American movies about Asians. It's always, you know, wise old man, pop like fortune cookie. And then, you ever notice all the women in those movies are all like, you know, they live to entertain white men. You know, it's just ridiculous. Well, the great news is that we couldn't find anybody to play the part of my teacher, Han, the Iron Fist guy, who is so incredible. So he played himself. And he's unbelievable. He's so great. And the funniest thing is that I was nervous because I thought he wouldn't do it, because I thought he would look at the script and say, you know, these scenes where I'm learning English here, this makes me look funny. Let's change it, because Han is a very proud guy. His ego would fill hockey rinks. And it's true, you know, every day on the set, he always wanted better wardrobe than he had. And so he had these, you know, these tight pants he bought in Hong Kong, and he had these boots, and his floor-length coat, and this cowboy hat, and these reflecting sunglasses. He'd walk out, and the director would say, no, 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 get him back in the wardrobe, see who. Anyway, I was afraid he would think that the movie, you know, he would want us to change him to make him even more glorious. But he didn't. See, he thought it was great. Like all the scenes that I think are so funny, like when he's trying to learn English. And if you haven't read the book, but this guy, Khan, he thought that all life can be explained by martial arts. That if you learn one punch, if you can really throw one punch, which takes, you know, 10, 20 years to really do right, to feel it the right way, then you can do everything. All of life can be explained by one punch. Everything else is easy after that. So he believed that the way to learn English was to do the way you learn martial arts, which is you take movements, string them together into routines, and here you go. So he wanted to learn English not by learning the alphabet and the nouns and everything. He wanted to memorize sentences without knowing the meaning of the individual word. And he thought he could then just string them together to form ideas. And of course, it didn't work at all. And it was hilarious. Well, in the film, of course, we have him doing that, and he doesn't think it's funny. See, he still thinks it worked. So he's doing it just like he did in real life. Oh boy, so he was really great. But oh man, what an adventure! What a nightmare, frankly. That was my first and last film. Filmmaking is not for boy. If you want to have regular blood pressure, don't make a movie. It's so incredible how complicated things are and how aggravating that here you have this idea, you think, great, set up the lights, shoot it, it's done. But when you have a crew of 60 or 100 people saying, no, 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 wait, 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 and then you've got 4,000 people watching going, oh, they're making a movie. Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, no, get out of the shot, get out of the shot. Oh, 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 don't look at the camera. And then, to top things off, filming in China made it doubly hard because the skeleton crew, the main people were American. I was the only one in the director who spoke Chinese, so they all couldn't understand the secondary crew, which China insists on. You can't just go into your film crew in China. You have to hire a film crew to work with you. That way they can, you know, get hard currency out of you, see? So we were promised the best film people in China. Well, of course, what we got were film students who've never seen a film set before. So here we are trying to organize the whole thing. They can't understand the American crew. The American crew can't understand them. So they say, okay, set up a 6K light over there with 2 flags on it. Then to complicate matters, so then they say, Mark, 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 translate. So here I am trying to rewrite the script and coach the different actors and actresses and listen to the director screaming at me because she doesn't like the way I look and sound. So then I got to run over and I got to go, well, you see, it's a light. It's like, because my Chinese, I mean, I can speak fluently, but I don't know stuff like 6K light and 323 flag and everything. So I'm going, well, you know, colored paper. Then to add to the problem is, the Chinese crew that we had working with us just couldn't keep up with the American crew, so the director then hired a crew from Hong Kong. Now, mainland Chinese don't like Hong Kong Chinese because they're jealous because the Hong Kong Chinese have a higher standard of living. So they wouldn't talk to each other. So here we hired these guys who could speak their language, but they wouldn't. So then, the cameraman says he needs a lighting director, and there's only one in the world that he'll work with, and he's Japanese, and he doesn't speak Chinese or English. So we have a Japanese lighting director, and all the Chinese hated him because he's Japanese. So you can imagine what it was like just to get a cup of water on the set. Bring me a cup of water. So anyway, but we finished the film finally. Oh, like another story. The one thing, you know, I always wondered, what's the most important part of the film? Is it the script? Is it the actors? Is it the director? Is it the cameraman? It's none of those things. It's the generator. The generator. That is the heart and soul of the movie. The generator is a gigantic box with a huge V8 engine in it that runs the electricity that makes everything work. Well, the one that we were given by the Chinese crew was this big and it ran 2 flashlights. So we had to get another one. So finally they said, there's one in Hong Kong. Order that. Well, we want to order it, but it's too big to fly. So we had to have it put in the back of an army truck and driven from Hong Kong to Hangzhou, which is up the coast. All right, we got that done. Well, we're waiting for it. We're sitting there waiting for the generator. Finally, on the walkie-talkie, we hear, we are on the city outskirts. We are coming into the city. So we're like, yeah. So we've got the walkie-talkie on. Everybody's celebrating. Here comes the generator. And then we're listening. We're hearing this guy going, I don't think you'll make it under there. And then the other voice goes, Meiguanxi. Doesn't matter. I can do it. No. I don't think we're going to make it under there. Meiguanxi. Doesn't matter. What had happened is they were driving into the outskirts of the city, and there were the main power cables to the city. And the generator stands about, 20 feet high or something. Oh, Meiguanxi took out the power for the entire village and melted the top of the generator. So, it was like that every day. Wasn't that another example? There's a scene in the movie, I didn't put in the book, but it was a true story. The bureaucrats were trying to prevent me from seeing my teacher Pan because it was one of these anti-Western, anti-democracy campaigns. And so the fact that I was studying Chinese martial arts seemed wrong because they thought, well, he's stealing Chinese secrets and Chinese people will be infected by him. In fact, the name of the campaign was the Spiritual Pollution Campaign. Can you imagine? I'm emotional sewage. So, of course, I protested this and I climbed over walls and well, finally they put a guard at the gate so I couldn't get in. I was so mad, I was going back to the college, and there was this flimsy brick wall. It's just this, temporary wall. And there are these workers, lowlifes are the same, they're all and the way that Chinese do them, considering your fat Western thighs. So I said, well, you know, they can jump higher, and yes, they're more agile. I begin to get, you know, pissed. I said, well, my legs aren't that fat. So I'm pulling out my pants like my little brother's in the back. He goes, Mark, she didn't say fat Western thighs. She said fatty Western diet. Well, that's the only film that he's done a lot of, you know, Chinese television type things that have martial arts in it. That's the only film that I've seen on video. Actually, you can find it in America. It's just hard because, as you say, there are about 85 movies called Shaolin Temple. You ever go into like a Chinatown video shop, say, "Excuse me, can I have Shaolin Temple?" Yeah, we got Shaolin Temple. We got Godzilla meets Shaolin Temple. We got all the Shaolin Temple. Well, it just had to be persistent because actually they never sold the video rights were never given out. It was a Hong Kong China production, so they're only illegal pirated versions. But if you go to Chinatown and you ask for the mainland Chinese one with, in Cantonese, the star of it is a young guy named Li Yanjie, but in Cantonese they say Li Yinji, or they call him Jet Li. So if you say, I want the mainland Chinese Shaolin Temple, not son of Shaolin Temple, with Jet Li in it, and you might be able to get it. And Han, he choreographed all of the scenes, and he plays a bad guy. And it's his real hair. He's a real... Yes? Talk to my lawyers. Yes. Well, it's funny, you know, I tried my best to be true to the experience, and you can tell from the way I tell stories. I love to exaggerate. But I do that when I tell stories. When I wrote them down, I decided I had to be straight because I knew they would read it. And in fact, it's been translated in China and read. And if I had exaggerated or lied, you know, I would have had a lot of arguments from Chinese friends. But you're not the only person to ask this. One time I was giving a talk, and there was a young woman from mainland China. And she stood up in the back, and she felt that my book made fun of Chinese people. Now, I don't think it does, but anyway, that was her opinion. So she goes, Mr. Salzman, how would you categorize your book? Would you call it fantasy or fiction? That didn't leave me a whole lot of room, but no, it's as true as I could come to do it. Oh, yes, the sideburns, his eyebrows go up like this. He's very proud of his appearance and his knuckles. It's a funny thing, he has, you know, from hitting this iron plate, he has these incredible knuckles. And, you know, it's so funny to watch him in social situations because he manages to get those knuckles into view, whatever's happening. It's really funny, like, whenever you take pictures with him, and like, sitting at dinner table and everything, he'll always make points like this. So he has the eyebrows, and yeah, you'll see him in the film. He's great to look at. Terrifying guy, but also very funny. Han has a new dream, a new ambition. He told me when I saw him last that he wants to come to America and be a movie star. And I said, well, that's great, Teacher Han, but you know, don't get your hopes up because there aren't that many roles for middle-aged Asian men who don't speak English. Ooh, he goes, you don't know, with makeup, they can make me look just like you. And I don't have to understand what I'm saying, I'll just repeat it. And I said, well, you know, the other thing, Han, is they don't do any martial arts movies in America. He goes, who said martial arts movies? I've done that. I want to do cowboy movies. sketches, and they were all good, but, you know, they could talk for 45 minutes, and you'd get excited. Don, he would say two things, it seemed. Like you'd be working with, say, a stick, and you think you've got a, is there like a, hold on just a second. I don't know, it's usually like a broom backstage or something. I want to just show you what I'm talking about. Well, I can't find it. Oh, yeah. Oh, are you kidding? you know, is just as wonderful and exciting as ours is. It took me a long time to get used to that. Like, I would go over to people's house, and at first I thought, oh, gee, you know, what do you talk about? I mean, oh, gosh, there's nothing to do, and which is silly because they find things to do. I mean, I ended up having the most incredible time just sitting around drinking tea and eating guaza. It's like watermelon seeds. And they're amazing, you know, Chinese can eat them without their fingers, and they shell them in their teeth. So they put them in their mouth and go, and I was with the shell, and the seed goes, oh, I never did learn that. I tried, I'd gone. Never could get that down. Maybe one more.
Where did you meet your what?
Where did I meet my wife? Oh, well, when I came back from China, then I had no idea what to do with my life. You know, I didn't know I was going to write a book. So I went back to New Haven because I had friends there, and I had this friend of mine who was a graduate student. And he was as miserable as I was, as all graduate students are. And every weekend we'd get together and drink, you know, and moan about how our lives were going nowhere because we were single and we couldn't, you know, how could we meet any women? And so we were always trying to set each other up. Well, he was a really good fencer. And one day he said, you know, I know who I want to set you up with. This woman is the star fencer of the Yale team. She has international class. And since she does fencing, you do martial arts, there's probably something there. So he introduced me to her, and I just adored her. Her sense of humor was so sick. I loved it. and so I just thought, this is the woman for me. And then the next day I said to this friend, I said, it's great, all right, you know, all systems go, set up lunch. He goes, got bad news. I didn't do my homework. You know, actually, she's going out with somebody in New York. I'm sorry. Well, I was so smitten that for a year, would just, whenever I could, you know, I'd see her walking down the street, I'd be like, and so finally, after a year, I got a call from this friend of mine. He says, Mark, I got great news. Jessica looks miserable. I think she must have broken up. So I just swooped in. Ear. That was how I met her. She's another interesting thing is she's fourth generation Chinese American, and it's a funny thing that, you know, she doesn't know anything about China. She has no interest in it. You know, her parents always wanted her to go to Chinese school. She was like, forget it, I want to watch the 49ers game. And so, you know, it's really kind of funny because it took me a long time to get her interested in me because she thought, oh God, another Sinophile. And then, so I finally had to say, listen, I am attracted to you in spite of the fact you're Chinese because I'm bored with China, frankly. I've had it to hear it. So, you know, we started finally, you know, I say, well, I understand you're a fencer. I do martial arts. She goes, really? I hate martial arts. There's no competitive spirit to it. It's just a bunch of voodoo. So we've never talked to her. She's so bored with it. You know, whenever I talk about it, she's just like, here's Mark getting spacey again.